Welcome back to the What's Next podcast. You are listening to Phil and Luke, Philip Smith, Luke Kemmies from Next Advisory. Today we are talking about the role of an accountant. How bloody exciting, Phil.
Sorry, Luke, you just woke me up there. The role of the accountant. Wow. Look, it's good to be back, and we will try and provide as much value and insight as we possibly can into potentially what is one of our most boringest topics. Really?
Yeah, maybe it's bad that we're saying that, but we make it sexy, we make it exciting.
We will. So Stay tuned for some value bombs and a lot of energy for the next 20 minutes.
We'll break down some of the barriers of what you should and shouldn't expect from your accountant, because we do hear some things. One of the things that I always hear, mate, is that it's probably like an expectation gap between what people think their accountant is doing for them and what they're actually doing and what they've even communicated they will be doing from the start anyway. So like you'll hear business owners that we may talk to say, I thought my accountant would be like looking out for me and looking at all my numbers, and they would say, hey, you spent way too much on this, so you should have profit. And I kind of think that's a little bit unfair to expect that of an accountant. Like, they're not in the nitty gritty every day looking at every client's zero ledger going, hey, why did you spend $800 at this restaurant or something, and that's meant that you've got no profit, now you don't have any money, and now you're telling me that this is the problem, that you don't have cash. Those sorts of things. So, yeah.
The viewers, the listeners can't tell what's going on at the moment, but one thing I can tell you is Luke is reading my mind 100% crystal clear, and I have written down that exact same point.
Really?
And I've got my little notes here on the role of the accountant in business these days. And from what we see is business is a lonely journey, and that really got emphasized at our Valentine's Day special.
Yeah.
With a number of business owners, and one of the key takeaways from that was the open forum discussion that we had, where business owners would just talk about some of the challenges that they were facing in business.
Yeah.
And could share it with other like-minded business owners, and they could get a sense and a realization that, oh, hey, people that are in different industries are faced with the same challenges that I am, and there's all these potential solutions that I haven't ever thought about before.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely mind-blowing. But the thing that, coming back to the earlier point for Luke to tie this all in, was involve your accountant in the journey.
Yeah.
Accountants can't be expected to solve problems they don't know about.
Perfect. Yeah, I've got proactive two-way relationships, and I think that's what we try and encourage with our clients, is to have these conversations where, hey, this seems a bit off for me. What do you think about it? I'm running out of money. Is there anything I can do? Not the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff sort of situation, and then play the blame game of, well, I just thought that my accountant would have told me about this. And it's like, yeah, maybe sometimes that's right. Yeah, they should have told you about your potential tax obligations, those sorts of things. But, you don't go to the gym and then go out and eat shit food all the time, put bad nutrients into your body, and then go back to your personal trainer and go,
why don't I have a six-pack?
Yeah, what? I thought that you would have told me that wasn't a good idea, or that I shouldn't have been doing that. So I think sometimes accountants do get a bad rap of not doing enough, when the accountant's like, well, you don't even pay me to do that anyway. You pay me to do your accounts for you. Just to defend the accountant a little bit, because usually we're kind of the other way sometimes, right? We're like, yeah, we operate at a different level and we provide a different level of service, and that's why clients pay us more in the market, and we don't, we don't play in the let's try and cut price and win as many clients as we can and stay out of that stuff, and we just offer a different level of service. But I do think that sometimes people expect more from their accountant than what they're paying for, and then get upset about it.
Yeah, the old expectation gap, and I think part of that might arise from the old barroom advice situation. That's real common in New Zealand, where business owners will talk amongst other business owners and go, my accountant said I can do this, or my accountant said I can do that.
Yeah.
Oh, my accountant didn't say that. And immediately I think the accountants are judged on their capability of what they're doing for one client versus another. And I think it's really important to understand that when you're in business, everybody's circumstances are unique and different.
Yeah.
So what one accountant might be saying to a business owner is a solution that's unique to them because of their circumstances.
Yeah.
So it may not necessarily apply to your business.
Yeah. So, you don't go to the physio and get the same treatment as the person before you. They're specifically working on your circumstances to make you better, to provide a service for you. They're not just going,
if the previous person had a groin injury and I've got a back problem, that ain't going to work.
No. All in the wrong areas, So someone might be trading with a company and provide one level of advice down the bar. The other one's a sole trader and going, well, I'm not doing that. And there's differences in rules across these different entities and things. And also, when people talk about that stuff, my accountant said this, ask them, well, how much do you pay your accountant a year? Yeah, one person might be getting Rolls Royce advice and service and offering, and then the other person's
for $295.
Yeah, and the other person's just getting their accounts done and going, I never hear from my accountant. Well, that's probably why.
Yeah.
Because you're not paying them. You're just paying them the bare minimum to have your tax compliance done. So sometimes there's a lot of people out there say that they're accountants as well, but are they actually just a tax agent? Are they just filing your tax return at the end of the year and giving you a pro forma set of accounts out of Xero, etc.?
So with all this in mind, what would your recommendations be for finding a suitable accountant?
I treat it like going to the physio. I would say, these are the problems I'm facing with my body / my business.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I can't solve these ones. Can you please help me solve them and let me know what that's going to cost? And then as the relationship goes, hey, mate, this is actually getting a lot better, but now I've got this issue. How do I address this one? And is there a fee attached to that? You know what? I'm going to up my shit and I'm going to become an All Black.
Wow.
We need to really get this body in shape, and I'm going to start training harder, and in return, I need some extra advice and extra help and need to make sure that you got me in tip-top body shape so that I can be running and beating my competition.
Jeez, we need to put you in touch with Gilbert and Oka.
Gilbert, does it cost? Yes, that is going to cost extra. So, if you want a high level of service and you expect that from other service providers, they expect you to pay. It's the same with an accountant, right?
Yeah.
Is that a good analogy?
No, I think that's really good. What are the challenges that you're faced with in business? And accountant is a pretty general term, and there's a lot of specialists out there. Find the one, like Luke was saying, that is going to solve your problems.
Yeah.
And the other point that I want to chuck in there is you want to be doing business with like-minded people.
Yeah.
So find an accountant with a personality.
Yeah.
If that's the way you like to do business, is it somebody that you want to be able to sit down and have a beer with?
Yeah.
Or a wine if that's your drink of choice. Or if you don't drink, an orange juice.
But you might have a lot of ball of cash and you want a brand associated to your account so that if you go to sell to a multinational company in Australia or overseas, and you might think in your head, well, I'd rather have a Deloitte brand or a Big Dog brand on my accounts because then that's going to perceive to be better from an overseas buyer. We've seen that before, right? And we were like, wow, that's how some people make their decisions. So they were happy to pay more in the hope that that brand recognition would mean that they'd get paid more down the line. Could actually all come unfold. Could actually go the other way for them. But
it could, and I guess they're paying a premium to have a recognised brand logo on the paperwork.
Yeah,
to give it an element of credibility that it may not necessarily have from an accounting firm that is not internationally recognised.
Yeah,
but that's not to say that the people in that accounting firm that isn't internationally recognised as a brand aren't as good. And we know of a number of accountants that are in smaller firms that are exceptionally talented at what they do.
They would walk into partner roles in some of the franchised accounting models, the PwCs, the Ernst & Youngs and whatnot, right? But they don't want to go down the franchise route of I'm going to be a franchised partner at a big firm. I want to build my own thing, or I want to help another firm grow up and expand. So they've made their own choices.
They value the freedom that running your own business brings.
Yeah.
But I think with having an accountant, it is a very crucial business relationship.
Yeah.
It's not one-way traffic in that you need to be involving your accountant on your business journey, and vice versa. The accountant needs to be involved and asking the right questions. And if you find that your accountant's not challenging your thinking and providing you with some objective thoughts and rattling your comfort zone a little bit, potentially there's a risk that your business is just going to remain the status quo.
Yeah. Yep. And we have a lot of knowledge that we acquire through, as accountants, through working with multiple business owners. And it's something I reckon accountants are too scared to talk about. They go to uni, then they become chartered accountants, so they study for that period. Then you get to study other people's businesses and go, oh, that really doesn't work well. We should advise another client not to go down the same route. And we get to see under the hood of all these businesses, but we don't talk about that. We're like, oh, yeah, I'm a chartered accountant.
And if I just stop you there for a minute, Luke, you've dropped the ultimate C-bomb.
C-bomb and over here.
Chartered.
Yeah,
accountant.
What's the difference between a chartered accountant and an accountant?
Well, I was hoping you'd be able to tell me.
Well, I can. So to become a chartered accountant, you have to do an extra level of study, to keep it very simple for the listeners. So that means that you need to meet requirements of the Chartered Accounting Institute or the Australia. I don't even. What's the terminology these days?
I was
Chartered
about to say ICANS, but
New
that's
Zealand.
like,
No, that's
the CANS now, isn't it?
So you have to get through that education process, and it is a fail position. So you can miss out. I don't know what the pass rate is these days, but you have to do another level of education basically to get your CA.
It must be quite high because we both got in.
Yeah. So we breeze through, to be honest, people here, but we then to go and trade in the market and advise businesses and help them do their tax returns and accounts and things like that, you then need to get a certificate of public practice. So by the time you go out to the market to get your first client, you've actually done probably 8 to 10 years of experience plus study.
Yeah, to be closer to that 10 years plus, I reckon, to get your 10-year journey. Practice. Yeah, so there's a lot of, I would say, technical capability.
Yeah, as well as ethical obligations when belonging to an institute.
And you raise a good point there, and I think that's something that is sometimes overlooked in distinguishing an accountant from a chartered accountant. Is not only are there all the education requirements that we need to go through in order to become a CA, but as a business owner that engages with a CA, you've got comfort in knowing that chartered accountants do have minimum standards that they need to adhere to and have ethical requirements that they need to meet, as well as continuing professional development every year.
That is good.
So we can't become, as professionals, complacent and go, what we learned at university with our Bachelor of Commerce majoring in accounting with honours. That wasn't me, by the way. It just sounds cool.
One of those partners you talked about before, maybe.
It may be. And then just punch out my debits and credits in accountantese and do a tax return, and that'll set me right for the next 30 years. As CAs, we've got to continually push the boundaries of our knowledge to make sure we remain up to date with what's going on.
Yeah, that's very good. That is very good. And I think that probably leads in nicely to what we think the accounting industry is going to turn into, and that is a lot more around business coaching. Typically is probably how people would explain it now, where you're building relationships with clients and you're helping them implement things that you have knowledge about that they don't understand. So how do I improve cash flowing through my business, and how do we change my terms from debtors and things like that, where we've done that with a number of clients, and it's about sitting down and going, right, we can tell you to do that, but how are we going to actually help you do it? And that's the advisory space that we play in, and it's a lot more fun, and we can add a lot more value.
Oh, I was waiting for you to drop that line. I had that written down here. Adding value, that is such an important aspect of what an accountant can do, because one thing that accountants are really good at doing is sitting behind their desks at their computers, working on so many different clients, but then failing to step back and go, hang on, I can leverage off all of this experience and take that value and apply it to so many more businesses to help them grow. And we see our role as going beyond accountants and chartered accountants and being growth consultants, GCs.
Just a couple of GCs,
Yeah.
It's great content around that.
And then that leads into also the other hat that we wear as GCs as guidance counsellors.
Guidance counsellors. People they want to tell you their problems.
Yeah, and that's the other skill set that gets kind of like a little bit neglected and overlooked as an accountant of being empathetic.
Empathetic, the big E word.
Yeah.
Emotional intelligence.
Being able to listen to other people's problems.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, that's outstanding, Phil. You've taught me something there. And it's also our role, I think, Phil, not to know everything. And we've gotten a lot better at this, I think, where I remember earlier in my journey, a client would ask me a question. I would think, I have to have the answer to this, otherwise I'm going to look like a bad accountant. Now I'm very comfortable saying, you know what, mate, I don't know what happens if you subdivide your land into 82 pieces, lend money off to your mates, and then don't charge them interest, and then want to run it through a company via a trust, etc., etc. It's, okay, we can get you some proper structured tax advice and find somebody that is a lot smarter to contract to help us find the answers to that.
And look, I'm picking that because you are a top-notch chartered accountant, and that is one of our ethical obligations of professional competence and due care, that we can't be undertaking assignments or engagements that we don't believe we can satisfactorily execute. And knowing the boundaries of what we can deliver on, we're quite happy to go, hey, look, we can introduce you to this person or that person, or draw in the appropriate professionals to be able to help you get you to where you need to be.
Definitely, that's exactly how I approach it, Phil. Yeah, well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think, people as well, they can see through it. They do understand that an accountant's not going to know everything. And also you can then go and sense check their information on the internet, whereas a decade ago, you couldn't really do that.
The other one that's out there, Luke, that the listeners might be wondering about is, what's the difference between, and there's a couple of parts to this question, an accountant versus a tax agent or a bookkeeper, and on the advisory / growth consultant, guidance counsellor type of thing, an accountant or chartered accountant versus a business mentor / coach type person.
Wow, there's a lot of roles there.
There are.
Yeah. Okay, if I start from the start,
yep,
this is how I would see it, and this is just my opinion. A tax agent will file your tax return and have you linked to the IRD to make sure that it's done.
Mm-hmm.
A bookkeeper will probably help you pay some of your bills and import your data into Xero and make sure that it's all neat and tidy and you've got all your receipts done, and they will help you reconcile some of the things in Xero as well. And then they'll probably stray into the area of, this is my advice, and may not actually be qualified to give that advice, or may be very well qualified to give that advice, but something to be very, very careful about. Where do you draw the line?
And I think the thing with the bookkeepers, from the experience that I've seen, is that they may lack a professional qualification in terms of either a membership to some professional thing. They certainly wouldn't be chartered accountants. They might be qualified as an accounting technician.
Yep.
And whether they are qualified by experience or whether they've got some form of tertiary education.
Yeah, definitely. So not to say that they don't do a good job, because there are some very, very good ones, and we refer work to good ones.
We do.
Because they save people's time. So their role should be to save people's time.
Bookkeepers, a good bookkeeper is worth their weight in gold.
Yeah, it's basically like admin support, realistically. An accountant then will probably go to the lengths of ensuring your accounts are done properly and then signing them off to then have them available for external users, including the bank, shareholders, directors, a potential purchaser, those sorts of things, and they will put their name to those accounts that they have been done and that they are accurate. A business advisor would go a step further and say, hey, how do we create the next set of numbers without using these last ones? So they would say, let's figure out a plan to create the results that you want and not look at past results and say, those are the results. They will help you create results.
Oh,
yeah.
That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah. So they work with you to figure out, what are you trying to achieve? Then how are we going to do it? And then they'll help you, partner with you to create the figures you want, not reflect on the figures you got.
There you have it, listeners.
That's not bad.
Write that one down. That's fantastic. And that kind of ties into our little catchphrase that we've trademarked and patented and registered every which way we can. Accountants would take you from year to year. Next Advisory would take you from here to here, way up there.
And here is way up there.
Yeah.
And then if we go to business coaching, business mentors, those sorts of things, it's probably all quite similar to advisory. So you want to be careful where your business mentor is bringing their advice from. Are they rolling out some templates that they've paid a franchise to use, and they've got a folder, and you've got a HR problem, and they go to that piece of the information and go, this is how you need to deal with it. It's in my clear file.
And I think on that point there, if they're going to their folder, that should be raising alarm bells when we're in a technological driven business environment.
Yeah.
You know, they might even be in fact rolling a brown suit and driving a Volvo.
That is a sure sign of old schoolness.
Yeah.
The old school.
There's alarm bells going off there. So,
there. The big V, driving around inside a big V. and a brown suit. Yeah, two probably no-nos for people that want. Yeah,
two. You didn't even bring up the folder. Wow.
Oh, the folder too. Yeah, sorry. The three failures there. But, I think that we're moving into a time where business owners want to work with people that have actual real-world experience too. And that's historically where accountants have been very, very shit at helping people execute, because the partners, maybe the business owners, and have real-world experience, but then they delegate all of the client-facing work to the client managers and stuff, and they're going, no, I want to work with the director. And the director's like, I'm too expensive. And so then people have had a lack of access to sound information and advice.
And that ties back so nicely to that earlier point around specialists in our industry. And that's something that those bigger franchise firms own quite well, that they have got industry-leading specialists. So they'll have the farming specialist, and then they'll have an international business, and then they'll have tourism specialists and Maori business specialists, and all these different things that you can go to. But I think the requirement to get access to a big four firm these days is probably turnover of over 100 million, maybe. Don't quote me on that. I don't know.
Yeah,
but they deal with, and so that's quite a restricting number for so many businesses. Those franchise fees need to be paid somehow. So then you've got to be going on the old Google search engine and finding other specialists, and there's plenty out there. So let your fingers do the walking. Get in touch, talk to people, and find somebody that's going to help you solve the challenges that you're faced with. Yeah. And most importantly, you can have a long-lasting, it's not a fly-by-the-night in and out relationship. Yeah. It's a long-lasting, regular touch-point relationship that you should be having with an accountant.
My last point would be to say that our industry has changed so much where historically we provided historic information. Now...
driven by our mates at the IRD.
Yeah. And now the R0 give you the ability to have live information, which means you don't need an accountant to have access to live information to then take some responsibility yourself to learn what those figures are and then potentially what they mean. And that's where you need to reach out to your accountant and say, we made a loss this month. Like, how's that happen? Can you please teach me? Can you upskill me? Historically, we didn't have the data live enough, fast enough, because realistically, accountants were just data input, really, into systems to then spit out reports and go, well, that was 6 months ago. Sorry, we didn't get around to doing it faster. We just couldn't. That's technology. Now, there's none of that excuse, but that means that arms the business owner with more power and more data. Like, I still have to go and analyze marketing reports to figure out if we're doing things right or not. And then when I get out of my depth, I go and say, hey, what's happened in this month, or what does this data mean? I don't just think someone's going to come and just magically give me the reports and be like, oh, you idiot, you were doing all this wrong. How did you not find this? You should have changed this months ago. Like, it's still my responsibility to dive into it and have some level of understanding, and then reach back out the other way and go, please help me understand what I'm doing wrong.
Yeah. So for the listeners out there, the role of the accountant is an important one. If you are an aspirational business owner and you do want to get ahead, it's important that you align yourself with the right professionals, and one of those key ones is going to be an accountant. Make sure it's somebody that aligns with your values and where you want to go and can help challenge you and get your business to the next level.
Brilliant. That has been the role of an accountant through the What's Next podcast, New Zealand's most listened to podcast in the accounting space. Quick fact check, not sure if that's actually accurate, but hey, look, we talk a big game, so why not? But hopefully, I think that will give people a better understanding of what they should expect from their accountant, and potentially having some of those conversations around some of the things they do expect having to pay for them.
Plenty of value as per usual. Thanks, Luke.